Hello and welcome to the Big Time Strength Podcast. I am your host, Gage Rozier. In this podcast, we interview amazing strength conditioning professionals who personify the popular saying, make the big time where you're at. These coaches are working at small schools with limited resources, limited staff, yet still provide a big time strength conditioning experience for their athletes. And let's get right to this week's episode. Hey guys, I'm really excited today to bring to you Coach Matt Sagar. Matt Sagar is entering his 5th year as the head strength conditioning coach at St. Mary's University of Minnesota. Prior to St. Mary's, he was the graduate assistant at Winona State, and he's also spent time at Central College where he got his undergrad and did an internship with their strength conditioning department. In this episode, Matt covers a lot of great stuff, including why that internship experience at Central College is so great and how he's trying to implement that at St. Mary's. We also talk a little bit about how he takes a negative of a small weight room with a lot of athletes and turns that into a positive experience and an opportunity to grow leaders on their team, and a lot of great resources towards the end too. So appreciate Coach Sagar coming on. I hope you enjoyed the show. But before we get to our interview, if you know of a small school strength coach who you believe would be a great guest on our show, please reach out to me. I'm always trying to expand our guest list. We got some great coaches coming up the next few weeks, but always trying to expand the guest list. So please reach out to me if anybody you think would be interested in being on the show. All right, having said that, let's get to our interview with Coach Matt Sagar.
All right, Coach Sagar, I appreciate you coming on with us today with the Big Time Strength Podcast. And why don't you get kicked off here by just explaining a little bit of your journey through strength conditioning, where you're at right now, and give us a little bit of a background on what your situation's like there as far as how many teams you're working with and some of your challenges you might have.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. So started out, I went to Central College in Pella, Iowa. I interned with the Central Strength Department for 3 years. Probably hands down one of the best experiences I had, just because they gave us all the tools to put us out into the field, whether that's a GA position, personal training job, so on and so on. And I worked with a lot of great guys, worked under a lot of great coaches there. From there, I spent 2 years at Winona State up in Winona, Minnesota as a GA. Worked under Coach Jeff Bernardi, learned a lot from him and how to kind of run a facility. And at the same time, I was in charge of 4 varsity sports right out of the gate. So again, real quick learning curve that I had to kind of bring my A game every single day of those 2 years, because varsity coaches wanted to compete at a high level, so I had to make their athletes compete at a high level. And then from there, strength conditioning is all about who you know and then proving what you know. Coach Bernardi at Winona State knew the AD at St. Mary's pretty well. She called and needed a strength coach and happened to be in the right spot at the right time. I've been at St. Mary's for 4 years now. Been an absolute blast. Haven't worked a day yet. And it's been an exciting learning curve every single day of every single year. Kind of give you an example of what I'm working with. At Winona State, we had about an 8,000 to 10,000 square foot facility with 35 racks and platforms. Again, it was a multi-use facility, both general population and student athletes. And at St. Mary's, smaller D3 school, we have an 800 square foot facility, 3 racks and platforms, 2 pony platforms, dumbbells, a couple machines here and there, and we make it work. That's one thing that I feel is a big part of strength and conditioning, is being able to adapt on the fly. But a big perk that I have is we have our indoor track and field facility right down the stairs from our weight room. So it's a blast to get to use that and get to adapt and make everybody better every single day.
Well, that's awesome. And there's a lot of good stuff just even in the intro there that you kind of mentioned. And one thing I want to go back to real quick before we start on some of our questions is, I know Central College has a great internship experience and program they have there. I know a few coaches have come out of there. For us coaches who are having, an internship program with our departments or trying to start one, what made that internship program so great, and maybe what's some advice that you can have as a coaches to make that a great experience for athletes and prepare them to be a great professional?
That's a great question. The biggest thing at that internship or at Central, was the hands-on experience. I mean, day one, your first day as an intern, you might have the head coach, the assistant coach, or one of the upper level interns walk up to you and say, hey, you're going to be in charge of this, figure it out. And they're going to walk away from you. An intern's going to be made, or is going to be broken on that first day. Now, right, wrong, or indifferent, strength and conditioning is all about attrition. I mean, you got to be one of the guys that's willing to work, willing to problem solve at a high level, at a high pace, and you either make it or you don't. But you make it past that first day, the floodgates open. I mean, it's, hey, you figured that out well. Here's something I would do different. Let's move on to the next scenario. How do you figure this problem out? Figure out how to set this up. How would you solve this person's squat, clean, bench, shoulder issue, knee issue, hip issue, ankle issue, barring any significant injury? So it was all the hands-on that you got every single day you were in the gym with teams. I mean, once you get through the initial phases of just being in a coach's hip and listening to them coach, watching how they interact with athletes. I mean, they told you to hit the ground running. If you weren't sprinting when you hit the ground, you fell flat on your face. In terms of implementing that with other programs, that's actually something I'm trying to do right now at St. Mary's. It's been a very fun and difficult learning curve. Trying to, I mean, right out of the gate, I tried to implement Central's intern curriculum that we went through. Again, just like any program that you might read or you might want to try, it might work great for the coach or the program, but if you don't have the exact same scenario that they have, it's not going to work. And I learned that the hard way. I mean, I should have had a little foresight there. But again, you got to learn on the fly, and sometimes you got to take your punches and roll with it. But having went to Winona State, they have a very big exercise science department, and I've actually developed a partnership with them where I take their personal training students and strength and conditioning students and take them through a semester-long internship and get them experience. And depending on what they want to do, whether it's personal training, maybe they want to go PT, or be a full-fledged strength conditioning coach, which kind of changes the curriculum that I take them through. If they want to go more physical therapy route, I get them in with our athletic training staff a little bit more so they see how I work with the athletic training staff. Whereas if someone wants to be a strength and conditioning coach, sweet, you're going to be on my hip every single day, every single minute you're up in the gym. We're going to learn every single day. So it's been a fun experience to develop that relationship with Winona State and help develop future professionals.
Yeah, that's a great creative way too to get some help for you, you know, and to impact lives and get those kids in the profession. Like that's awesome. You're doing some great things there, and again, that hands-on, throw you into the fire. And I think back to my main experiences. You know, that's where I've learned the most. You're sinking or swimming. You know, it's not just sitting down and learning on the whiteboard. It's you're in the trenches trying to get it done. So, all right, man. Well, thanks for sharing that. And let's talk about some unique ways you've been able to maximize some of your resources there at St. Mary's.
Absolutely. So again, day one, I think the big reason I got the job was I told them I was adaptable. I was going to adapt on the fly, and I absolutely had to. I mean, having 21 varsity sports, this year we had 365 student athletes. 800 square feet shrinks really fast when you're trying to crank out a wide variety of teams. The big thing for me was using what I had available. I mean, I had We had sleds from the track and field team that I was able to use. We had a couple old tractor tires, a couple old barbells. So we would shotgun teams. We'd have a team start at 6, 6:15, 6:30, and it would really depend on where they're at in the year. If we have a team that's in preseason, they're going to take a little bit of priority in terms of the racks and platforms. Whereas if we have a team that was in maybe their preseason or further out from the competition, they're going to be downstairs doing some basic GPP stuff, maybe some basic hypertrophy stuff with empty barbells, lightly loaded sleds, and they're going to flip some tractor tires. So it was just a simple way to help spread teams out and kind of maximize my space. And one thing I told our team leaders week one, I said, look, it's me, you guys, and your teams. I'm going to need your help in trying to herd 360 cats. So it was kind of an eye-opening experience for not only myself but them, because they've never really had a strength and conditioning coach that kind of put the leadership role in their shoes. It was, this is how we're going to do it, no ifs, ands, or buts, but instead now they say, all right, hey, baseball team, we're going to go through this dynamic warm-up that coach has laid out for us. When we're done with that, coach is going to take us through our torso and our speed work, and then from there we're going to get up in the weight room. So that, again, is just another way for me to use some of my leadership resources and help build future leaders so they can be better prepared for life outside of athletics and outside of college. So it's been, again, a fun and sometimes very strenuous learning process, but again, it's been an absolute riot.
Yeah, that's exciting because I think just your whole mindset there with taking, a challenge of your resources and your facility, and you have all these teams to train, and then turning it into a positive and an opportunity to grow leaders on that team instead of, complaining that this is the way we have to do it. We don't have this, this, and this. Instead, like, here's the reality. This is what we got. This is an opportunity for you as a teammate and as a captain and leader on this team to develop those leadership skills and to help us out as a strength and conditioning partner. So that's an awesome concept. I think you're really applying to your athletes there. Let's, how about some favorite resources or tools you use to optimize productivity or training or time, whatever it might be? Because, you got to be efficient. It's you and 365 athletes. You got to be efficient. So are there any resources that you're using to help with that?
The big one I use is Excel. Now I know, in the grand scheme of things, with how strength and conditioning has kind of exploded, you've got Train Heroic, Team Builder, Bridge Athletics, who are kind of a cloud-based training program resource. And I'm all for that type of growth in terms of strength and conditioning. But one thing that I absolutely love is programming, the X's and O's, the nuts and bolts, and that's part of the reason I use Excel. Now, there is definitely a large chunk of time in my career that Excel was very time consuming and the exact opposite of being efficient. But again, part of learning or continually growing as a strength coach is learning how to utilize Excel and the multitude of functions and processes that Excel can do. I've cut, probably 20 hours a week out of programming time just because of some of the things I can get Excel to do now. And it's taken me years to get to this point. But if you can master Excel, or especially as a young strength and conditioning coach, just diving into Excel and getting that to do essentially whatever you want it to do, is huge. And other than Excel, I use my watch on my wrist. Hey, I've got 45 minutes to chill or to crank out some programs, maybe work on some stuff for my classes that I teach. I really look at that thing, or I look at the clock that's on my computer and stick to it. I mean, your best tool is going to be your discipline as a strength and conditioning coach. And I know that's a huge, huge piece of strength and conditioning. And one thing that I've noticed with some of the interns that have been up and coming that I've gotten to work with, it's slowly slipping away, and it's something that I hammer with my interns. So those are kind of the two big things or three big things that I really utilize. And I know that's not necessarily a tool, but it's just being proficient with what I have.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that the Excel, like you said, can be extremely frustrating if you don't know how to operate it, but just a great tool, and the possibilities you can do with that is absolutely endless. And I'm sure it took a while for you, like you said, to build up the efficiency of using that. We use Team Builder here at Jewel, and it's been a great resource for us, but at the same time, we still use Excel, and I'm still learning as a coach on ways to use Excel to get the same effect that we're getting out of Team Builder with a lot of our data tracking and stuff. So I might have to pick your brain on that sometime, because it's definitely a learning curve for me, and that's something I encourage young coaches coming up is don't rely on all the software stuff's great, but just knowing and understanding a basic idea of how to use Excel is extremely important, because you're going to have to use it at some point. So, all right. So let's talk about developing leaders a little bit with giving them ownership in your training process. What are some other ways maybe you helped develop that team camaraderie and that leadership component?
So one of my favorite things to do is put teams through hard work. And as a strength and conditioning coach, that's kind of a cliche, if you will, because it's what we do. We lift up heavy things, we put them down, we do it again. But getting them outside of their comfort zone. Great example, my swim and dive team, I'm sure you've seen this. Swimmers outside of the water are interesting to work with. Let's just keep it at that.
Yes, agreed. Yeah.
So to get them out of their comfort zone, we'll go do something on dry land that involves running, pulling sleds, maybe they have to do buddy carries, whatever. And it just forces them to kind of see what their true limits are, what they can possibly do, or how hard they can push themselves before their tank is truly on empty. And it's really fun to see, whether it's we're doing maybe buddy carries or towel pushes or whatever. The guys and gals that finish early, they see, okay, I know I struggled with this. Let's go help out Susie Smith, who's really struggling with the towel push, or Tommy over here, who's struggling with the sled pull. Let's go help them out. And again, that kind of innate leadership comes out, and it just explodes. And then the team rallies around maybe the last person who finishes, and it's just really humbling and awesome to see a team that is, like track and field, very individually based, but they know that those team points at the end of the day or the end of the meet are only going to help them push towards their ultimate goal. So it's an absolute blast to see teams come together with that. Another great example, a traditionally dry land sport, soccer, I'll throw them in the water. And again, holy mackerel, you want to see someone get real nervous real quick. Again, I don't force anybody to tread water in the 13-foot section. I let them stay where they're semi-comfortable, but when they see 25 of their teammates swimming out there, again, they call each other out, they help each other. Hey, swim right next to the wall, I'll swim right next to you. You have a problem, I'm right here. It's just an absolute blast to see that, again, leadership, helping each other out, just overall team mentality develop. And another big thing that I really like to do, depending on the team and the time of year, is I'll take the team leaders and we'll have weekly or monthly meetings depending on their schedules and ask, how is the team doing? What can I do to help you take this team where we know it needs to go? And again, using that to kind of getting that inside scoop on the mentality of the team, the morale of the team, really helps me. Okay, next week it was a big conditioning week, but we got 5, 6, 7 guys or gals sick. All right, I didn't know that. Now I can use that, change the program a little bit. And the athletes, like, and you can see it when they look at their card or look at the whiteboard, and you can just see a big sigh of relief. Oh, crap, thank you. So it's just a constant learning communication process that really helps me build those teams up and let them kind of take the reins from there.
Yeah, and that's got to be great for your buy-in, too, that they see that you are asking them for their opinion, number one, and then not just asking, but then you're actually taking it into account and changing their training based off the feedback that you're giving. And it's got to be great for just the buy-in for you as a coach and the whole department. And then the stuff that you talked about there would just challenge them in their comfort zones. Throwing soccer in the water, I think, is a great idea. I'm going to have to try that. There's a lot of great stuff there, man. I appreciate you sharing all that. And then also, you know, we talk about, as the head guy, you always want to kind of be thinking big picture stuff and looking ahead of, you know, what's next? How can you improve your department? So what are some things maybe, you know, in the next 5 years what's your vision for your department in the next 5 years? Where do you want to grow?
Absolutely. That's a great question, and something that's been changing year after year after year. At St. Mary's, we're actually kind of in transition right now. We're getting a new president and a couple new VPs here and there. So we're kind of in limbo right now. But a big thing that was a huge kind of godsend for me was getting approved to buy new bars and bumper plates. Just our equipment is 15 years old or better, and because of our athletes getting stronger, more explosive, and being able to do more dynamic work in the weight room, equipment's taking a wear and tear. And that just kind of helps me show the athletes that, yes, I'm working across campus to try and help our side of things out. I'm trying to work with other people, with Student Senate, with the higher administration, and just those little sparks help the athletes. Hey, we're getting help. We're getting what we need. But on a more big picture note, with this new president coming in and some of the opportunities that will bring, I'm going to try and push for updating or renovating a major facility. And that's going to kind of multi-sided allow me to, or help me kind of pursue my goal of developing an exercise science department at St. Mary's. And again, that's more 10, maybe 15 years, because I can only imagine the hurdles and red tape and other things you have to do to start a major at a university. But having a facility where interns can come and learn and have the space to mess around in their weight room would only benefit everybody. So that's kind of my broad spectrum, but 5 years is to have either a new facility or a refurbished facility into a new weight room. Just because with 360 athletes and only more freshmen coming in this year, again, 800 square feet shrinks real fast.
Absolutely.
So it's going to be a fun process once we get the new president in place and once he kind of gets settled and everything figured out to see where we can take this.
Well, that's super exciting for you, I'm sure, and that's we're kind of in the similar boat here at Jewel a little bit. I'm hoping to hopefully be a part of a facility renovation. And,
Okay.
you know, it's going to be interesting to see how that all kind of pans out. We'll have to share notes and some advice with each other on that. But again, there's a lot of hurdles to be jumped with that. And, you know, that's obviously my first opportunity to be a part of that type of situation. So, there's going to be a lot of bumps in the road and a learning process, but it's exciting for you and St. Mary's. So let's transition a little bit more about resources before we wrap things up. What are some stuff that you're excited about learning just as a coach or as a leader in the next year or so? You know, what are you really diving into right now?
Well, right now I'm working on my precision nutrition certification. I've always had a kind of a desire for nutrition or a passion for nutrition because I understand how big of a role it can play in athletic competitiveness. I mean, you look at rehab, building strength, rebuilding tissue from a hard workout, losing weight, gaining weight, whatever the scenario, nutrition plays a huge, huge role in that. And one of my favorite questions I get asked is, Coach, how do I get a six-pack? It's like, well, that's great. Show me what your kitchen habits are, and then we can have a better conversation. I mean, again, lifting weights is great, but the way I look at it, especially going through some of the texts that I've gone through with this certification, I mean, lifting weights is only about 5 to 10% of the equation. I mean, if you're sweet, you can squat 500 pounds, but if your goal is 600 and you're eating Twinkies and Fruit Loops all day, you ain't going to make it very far. So it's, again, very fun to dive into that. I mean, it was one of the chapters was essentially ex-phys crammed into about 60 pages of a chapter, which was a bear to read, but good refreshing nonetheless. But I'm excited to get into more of the psychology of it and how to help an athlete or client change their thinking process on top of being able to change their nutritional habits or nutritional choices therein. So that's kind of what I'm tackling right now. It's been an absolute, again, blast reviewing a lot of the ex-phys and basic nutrition stuff. But again, the psychological side of things is where I'm really excited to dive into.
Well, I think that's huge. That's awesome, man. For me here, I kind of know just enough to be dangerous. So that's,
yeah.
And so just giving out basic advice, and that's what I think personally. I'd love to hear your comments on this as well. What a lot of our athletes just need is just some basic habits, how to sleep, to eat breakfast, and just stuff like that. And then you mentioned the mental side of it too. I'm sure you're diving into some great stuff there, and being able to tackle that with your athletes is exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I got here, it's the same thing. Coach, what protein do I need to take? What supplements do I need to take? You don't eat breakfast every day. A supplement's not going to do you anything. I mean,
sure.
Oh, you sleep 4.5 hours on a daily basis. Sweet. So you're essentially worthless every training session you've come to for the past 6 weeks. Great. Thanks for the heads up.
Right.
But it's slowly changing. Again, where I've got more athletes now that are really focusing on getting 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep every single night. Now I've got my pre-med students, pre-law students who are just cranking it out. The coach, I slept 2 hours last night. It's like, yeah, I can tell. Go back home, go to bed, get out of here. It's not worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's some good stuff, and yeah, just the amount of lack of sleep that we see in a lot of our athletes is just shocking. So getting them to get maybe 6 to 8, 6 is a huge thing. If they can get 8, that's a miracle. So, what are some of your favorite professional development resources that you're doing right now or in the past that maybe our listeners can dive into as well?
My big one what was and still is Elite FTS. I mean, you want to talk about a site where there is thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of coaches, personal trainers, gym owners who have done it, been where you are, or are going to be, have gone through what you are going through or will go through, coaching, training, nutrition, psychology. I mean, there are enough articles on there to fill 6 textbooks of any category that you want to label up that textbook. I mean, it is, I read an article from there almost every single day on any number of topics. And then the other one, I mean, I say this all the time, YouTube is a hell of a drug. I mean, you can fall down the YouTube rabbit hole and, holy cow, it's 5:30. What am I doing? I got a group in 10 minutes. I mean, it's, I've definitely gotten lost in some training videos. I mean, one of the things I'm following right now, kind of tie the two together, is Fixing Dave Tate YouTube series that he's been posting. I mean, you want to talk about learning how to work around a multitude of injuries, whether it's shoulder, knee, hip, elbow, ankle, back. You want to learn about some of the processes that a physical therapist is going to go to when they're evaluating an athlete. I mean, I'm, I think 3 videos in or 4 videos into the series, and I think I've got 6 pages worth of notes on just rehab protocols that I'm going to try, mess around with and try and implement with some of my athletes. Hopefully none of them get injured, but again, it's athletics. It's going to.
Right. That YouTube is a hell of a drug is one of my favorite quotes. That's hilarious. That's awesome. I'm definitely going to check that Fixing David Tate YouTube series. That's something I'm very interested in. I'm going to check that out. So, all right, it's been awesome, man, having you here, and you got some awesome stuff. I've taken a lot of great stuff from you so far. Let's wrap this thing up. 5 little quick questions here, kind of fun ones before we get going. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds great.
All right. What is your favorite office snack?
Ooh, I should buy stock in Greek yogurt.
There you go.
I crush Greek yogurt, maybe peanut butter too. I mean, if I've got 15 minutes in between groups and it's been a while since I've eaten, I grab a little cup of yogurt, crush that, slam some water, head upstairs and get after it. It's
nice,
simple, easy, very basic snack.
Good. Favorite caffeine source?
Tea and coffee.
There you go.
First few weeks of a semester, might as well have a coffee IV hooked up. But once the semester gets rolling, I switch to tea and try and slow things down a little bit.
Yeah. Workout playlist. Favorite one?
Ooh. Anything that's not our local radio station.
There you go.
I don't care if it's country, techno, I don't care. If it's not the same 15 songs on repeat, awesome.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. All right, you got 15 minutes to train. What are you doing?
Squatting. I don't care the variation. I'm going to squat. I mean,
Don't say is it back, front, anything in particular, just squatting?
Just squatting. If I have spotters with me and I want to squat heavy, I'll back squat. If I don't have spotters with me and I still want to go heavy, I'll front squat just because it's easier to miss.
Nice. Like it. All right, last one. Give me a small school coach that you know who's just killing it, deserves a shout out.
Ooh, the crew out at Northwestern College in Orange City, Iowa. Coach Corey Van Wyk and Coach Ox. Those guys have taken that institution and just taken it by storm. I mean, developed a new facility, new weight room, changing the exercise science department. They're absolutely crushing it up there in Orange City. Again, they're doing great things. They're just getting after it. Absolutely getting after it out there.
Awesome. I'll have to check those guys out. That's exactly why we're doing it. Get to know more small coaches and reach out to those guys. So, all right, before we go, if someone wants to get a hold of you here, what's the best the email? Give us your best way to get in contact with you.
Email's your best bet. My St. Mary's email that I gave you is really good. I think my office phone number is on an email I sent you. Another great opportunity. I mean, because my office is in the basement, brick and mortar building. My cell phone reception is pretty sparse. So email or my office phone would be ideal.
Awesome. And I'll put that in all the show notes. And all right, Coach, I really appreciate you coming on, man. Again, a lot of great stuff there. And good luck this summer. I know you got a lot of hockey camps and stuff you talked about before you going on. So enjoy that and good luck this fall. And again, appreciate you coming on with us.
You bet, Coach. Thank you for having me. It's been a blast.